All right, welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast. I am Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright, and we survived the snow apocalypse. Some pretty severe crashes here and there because people either can't drive too fast. We got a weird combination of people here in North Carolina.
It's
Like
it's getting weirder, I would say, but it's less natives and more folks from the North and the Midwest who are infiltrating the great state of North Carolina. And you know what? Look, hey, arms wide open, welcome you. But you know when you get Brian shaking his head no. But when you get here, hey, let's take a beat, slow down for a second, enjoy some things.
yeah, I think what
Don't roll
happens.
your eyes at me, Brian. Hey, let's ingrain people to the North Carolina culture, the food, the
Yeah,
traditions, and let's let them. I was one of those people at one time. I moved here
you
from
were you were
Northern Virginia,
DC. Yeah,
DC folk, and now look at us, just salt of the earth.
yeah, yeah. I would say what happens is a lot of times those people come from places where roads are cleared. There's other maybe better drivers around them, so it's a
I
combination of
saw, yeah,
things.
I saw the
Yeah.
one plow in our town yesterday just driving.
Yeah. You don't get much more than that. You got to wait for the sun. Fortunately, next Tuesday we're supposed to have a 68-degree day, so I'm looking forward to that. But dude, I did see today the Dodgers had a little spring training game. Did you see any of that game?
No, I didn't catch any of it. No, I didn't. I was busy watching some NAIA softball. So
Okay. So maybe we can talk about both a little bit. But the Dodgers, nothing surprising. I mean, the pitching looks good. They showed Otani doing some bullpen work, and they showed a couple of their guys only went, going about an inning and a half. Nothing
this is
crazy,
double A
but
and triple A guys. A lot of high
no, they're big
numbers.
leaguers. There's definitely a number of
Okay.
big leaguers. The Japanese guy, I can't think of his name.
Sasaki.
Yes, he threw like inning and two-thirds. Must they did the big thing. I think my takeaway out of this was the reason I brought it up was Muncy got called ball three maybe, and they had the ability to catcher has the ability to tap the hat. You get like two challenges in spring training on
Ooh.
pitches. And come back. It was a strike, caught the bottom of the zone. Eventually, Muncy strikes out that AB, and they interviewed him afterwards, and they're like, "Hey, so what'd you think about that?" And he said, "Well, when I took the pitch, I thought it was a strike, and then he called it a ball, and I was like, all right, that's great." And then he was like, "Oh, then we were reviewed." I was like, "It was a strike. I knew it was a strike."
Yeah.
So we've seen some of those go on the AAA games and stuff where they do it, and or sometimes even have the automatic strike zone anyway. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's
That's
going to be a little bit different.
that's one of those rules we talked about that I would like to see intact, right? You've got the ability to do it. You see it in other sports, they use the technology. It's not hard. I mean, it's pretty instantaneous when it pops up on the screen. Just have a little buzzer going to the umpire and let the umpire call what the computer calls. It makes sense. I honestly like if you're going to do a challenge, just do the whole thing. Why have a challenge? You have the technology, you have the capability.
Yeah,
Just do
and they're
it.
making it now, and I don't love this. I tend to agree with you in your foresight how it should work. Right now, it has to be called from on the field. It can't be initiated by
Oh, like
somebody.
a coach, yeah.
Yeah, a coach
Yeah,
that's
because you
looking
can
at a
just be
replay.
watching, you just watch the broadcast, and you can clearly see right off the bat. It is amazing. I told you, like I've shared with you guys several times. I'm a big like watching the old games, and Apple TV has a good library of them. It's pretty amazing how wide that strike zone was.
It wasn't very tall, but it
Not
was very
up and
wide.
down, not a whole lot, but side to side, you were getting a few inches off the plate, and some of those calls, and the batters didn't really argue it either, which was pretty amazing. They just kind of looked back at the umpire, shook their head, yes or no, and just like, all right, we're moving on to the next pitch. It wasn't a whole lot of arguing because I guess they knew they weren't getting that call at the belt ever, so they'd taken an inch, one way or the other too. So
Well, and I think also now there's guys that literally, I don't know how much of a delay it's on, but there's literally guys now, Paul, that are looking at their ABs or looking at the pitch or the previous, I mean, right there in the dugout. And so it's
yeah, on the
almost, you
iPads.
get instantaneous feedback of, hey, that ball's 2 inches outside. And I think there's still going to be, until we do completely computer stuff, there's still going to be some bad calls. I like the higher and low strike zone just because I hate some of the swing mechanics that are being taught now, and some of
Yeah.
the swing mechanics are really susceptible to anything belt or above, especially with velocity. But on the flip side, it was a different challenge back in our day because there was no really, you could argue it, right? And you knew when balls were off, but you also knew, you probably knew this even in minor league ball. I don't remember a couple of umpires. You knew they were given this much off or this much, a little
Yeah.
bit more off. And guys would either live there, and if they were good enough, they'd have really good days. If they weren't, they would get hit around. But also sometimes they wouldn't give maybe that pitch that was on the inside corner, depending on where you send that in the box too. And so I think there were more of kind of mind games isn't the right word, but more of like
Well, it's
situationally who
more
should
more of an
umpire.
art, right?
Yeah,
That's some of, and I think that's part of where, as a catcher, that's where you make some of your money, right?
yeah.
Stealing
Some of
some
these
of those
catchers are
strikes.
so good at framing. Yeah,
Yeah, bringing the ball up into the zone, that sort of thing. A lot of new technology, new techniques are being taught to get that. But I think if you do go to the automated strike zone,
you eliminate that as a skill
I think
almost
a
too.
catcher becomes far less valuable, right? From that perspective, because you're not stealing anything. You just, I mean, anybody who can just block the ball should be back there, like realistically.
No, I don't
It's-
disagree. If you can throw a little bit and have an arm, now, obviously the last handful of years, you've seen a lot more of that one knee technique. And that one knee technique, I've talked to a handful of guys. The idea is you can get that bottom strike, right? You can get that strike that's
Yeah.
below. So when guys are receiving, a lot of times their mitts going all the way to the ground and everything they're catching is going up.
Coming
And
up.
if you have a guy that's catching the bottom of the zone, it's always looking like a strike because his hand's coming up and receiving it and meeting the ball. And
Yeah.
that was the idea. But you're absolutely right. That skill is eliminated. That's kind of one of the reasons I hope they don't get rid of it because there's certain guys that are really good at it.
Yeah.
Even though part of me is like it's manipulative. I hate like at our level sometimes you'll see catchers like grab it and like jerk it back
But
in. It looks
they
terrible.
literally jump up and they come down and bring it to the zone. It's like, come on, don't even like don't.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing? And
Yeah.
even our catchers sometimes will hold it for a long time. I'm like, dude, if you don't call it a strike, let's just keep it moving.
Just get it back to them. Yeah. So technology, a lot of things, and Brian, it kind of in the same breath, but a little different. Technology is really cool as well from video and condensing games. I know my son loves to watch like the condensed version of big league games and NFL games and different college sports, and I'll get to watch him. He watches highlights of all kinds of college games because he can. Like it's such a cool thing now. And if I was a kid in this time frame, I think I'd be
Oh,
doing the
you
same
would
thing.
be
I'd be
all
watching like I
over
would
it.
have scouting reports for the ACC and the SEC, and
You'd
I'd
be
be
breaking it
all over it.
down.
Yeah, and it's so cool. There's a lot of great folks who break down games. I know you mentioned you watched a little bit of
So I didn't
NC
originally
State
see.
and Liberty game, right?
Yeah, I didn't really see. I thought early on they were down 5-1 early, then they come back and take the lead, and I think they make it 6-5, then eventually 8-5 going into the top of the ninth. They're the NC State's the home team. And I'm like, dude, how are they going to blow? How are they going to give up 4 runs in the top of the ninth and lose? Because I knew the final score. And so how you do that is you walk the leadoff guy, you
Mhm.
walk the second guy, and then you have an error to the shortstop. You get nobody. Don't get a lead runner. Don't get
The
anything.
bases loaded.
Bases loaded. Then you have maybe I think it's just a fly ball that scores another run, and then you have a hit by pitch. Bases loaded get hit back again. So eventually, I can't remember exact order, but you had 3 walks, you had a hit by pitch, and you had a error on the shortstop, and that's how you give up 4 runs in the top of the ninth to lose to Liberty in a midweek game.
So a lot of free bases.
And it's almost, we talk about it all the time. I don't remember the numbers. I knew at one time, like how often a leadoff walk actually
Like 80,
scores.
it was like 80% or
It
something
was something
crazy.
really stupid. The number was way higher than I thought it ever would be. But
Yeah.
like, it's an extremely high number if you don't make somebody earn that place at first base.
Yeah. And that was actually one of our like I said, so Brian and I coached together. And one of the games that I don't remember a ton of our games because we just play so many. One of the games I remember most vividly was we were down 6 runs heading into the last inning. And we had a kid who had been swinging it pretty good, but I mean, not, that great. And the other coach intentionally walked our leadoff batter of the inning
Yeah.
and effectively started our run. So we ended up scoring 7 runs in the bottom half of that inning and walking it off.
Yeah. I
And
remember that vividly, and probably was one of at the time probably one of our best hitters, and I would
he
say
was,
that it
yeah, I mean, he
was.
was swinging it pretty good, but it wasn't like,
But you don't. You're up. They were up 6 runs.
they
You
were up
don't
six
walk that guy.
runs.
If he hits the home run, he
Who
has a good
cares?
chance of hitting a ground ball to second base and being his
Yeah.
first out. You don't start a rally that way. I mean, they would have pitched the Bonds in that situation, and so
Yeah.
you obviously come across all kinds of knowledge whenever you play and coach against
Yeah.
this level.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. But yeah, so the technology's there is pretty great with the baseball. The other thing, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make a plea to our listeners. Okay. We need you to buy a lot more merch because as it turns out, the capability to purchase the Major League Baseball broadcasting rights is coming to fruition.
Yeah, yeah,
And we're gonna
yeah.
we're gonna need all of you guys to start buying lots of Right Stew podcast merch.
We're gonna try
So
to make a bid for
we're gonna put a bid
one of
in,
the teams. Yeah,
and then we'll broadcast the games on our own.
right.
I guess we'll have to create a network,
Well,
but
we can do rights too. We can just live feed. I mean, people do it
just
on Twitter. Yeah, just live feed everybody. Do announcing. Do it. Now a lot of games are done where the announcers are just like they've got the camera view, right? Whatever different camera views, and they're doing it from this environment right here. I don't know if you noticed that. A lot of softball
I've
games. I've
seen
seen a
that a
couple of
little bit.
softball,
Yeah, I've
and
seen
I've
that
seen
where
it.
they're
I think a
watching.
couple
Yeah,
of baseball too, and it makes a lot of sense because then you're not paying for hotels. A lot of times the views are just as good. But yeah, MLB and ESPN after this year will end that relationship. 35 years, bro. You think about baseball tonight, and
oh man,
and
Carl
I
Ravitch
saw
and Harold Reynolds back in the day, and Peter Gammons, and just I mean, and ESPN got to baseball. I mean, because ESPN started off showing bowling and fencing and just these really
like
odd
the
sports.
strongman competitions, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
really
the
odd
guys. How many
things.
rocks can you lift?
And
Yeah,
then they slowly started getting rights to some different, really major league sports. And then because and they still have NFL, they've had hockey, they've had baseball, they've had basketball. But I mean, baseball, I guess they got it in the late '80s, but man, like baseball tonight was a staple, just an absolute staple. And I guess they'll still have baseball tonight because it'll still be a show, but
maybe.
they won't have the
But if you don't have the
broadcast.
rights, and maybe it was a mute. They tried to make it out, depending on what article you read. They try to make it out that it was a mutual deal, and it never feels mutual. I'm sure Fox Sports probably has an interest in getting this. I would imagine some of these others. Baseball, really, from that standpoint, is hurt because Bally went out of business last year and
Yeah.
didn't uphold some of their contracts, and some of their games weren't shown that were supposed to be shown regionally. But I had on one of my feeds, I had a guy from ESPN go down to the old Baseball Tonight like studio.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
So
that's
they
cool.
were walking, and you walked down, and you saw the home plate, you saw this, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden the camera panned up, and it was just like it was being used as like storage. Like there was
Ah,
scrap everywhere.
hurts my
I mean,
heart.
no longer. It looked like, yeah, it was kind of sad, man, because that was, now you got MLB Network, you got different ways, YouTube and different ways to see. But man, if you
Yeah.
wanted highlights, that was the way to get it. You can still hear go back, 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 go, and
Yeah.
the home run screaming, as it's going out of the
Yeah.
ballpark. And so,
Yeah, the Sunday night game of the week. I used to love John Miller and Joe Morgan on the Sunday night game of the
I
week.
did
I
too.
know
A
a
lot
lot
of
of people didn't
people
like
did
Joe
not
Morgan.
like Joe Morgan for some reason. I
Yeah,
liked him.
I thought he was great. That's what I was kind of joking with you earlier today. So my daughter was playing a game down in South Florida today, and the announcers were literally just these like seemingly two random people who had very minimal commentating ability on baseball or softball.
Oh yeah, bat
They
and
were
ball sports. Yeah, I
they
mean,
were
you
they were
sent me one
just
clip.
they were so excited about everything. It was kind of infectious. I would kind of rather watch that. It was almost just like listening to two guys sitting in the bleachers in front of you who didn't really have a clue, but you kind of like, man, they're trying. They're giving it their best shot. They care. They love their school. And so it was pretty entertaining to hear. But I kind of texted you jokes like, man, I'd rather listen to those two guys than Tim McCarver, who's this
Well, and
pretentious.
I don't disagree with you. And I would say announcers can make a huge difference. You think about the Dodgers. Who's their Dodgers boy that
Oh,
we
Vin Scully. Yeah, Vin
Vince
Scully.
Scully played one of the best of all time. I liked the baseball tonight guys with Joe Morgan and what was the other guy, John?
John Miller. Yeah, John
Yeah.
Miller. Yeah, the Giants and Orioles.
So I
Yeah,
like those guys. I feel like baseball, the good announcers can make a huge difference in regards to, especially if it's just a random Tuesday night game. But sometimes they get people in there that make it worse and almost unwatchable at times. Some of the people they've had in there, just feel like, I don't know. I mean, when you sent your clip to me today, I was like, man, I thought maybe it was like a mentally challenged person that was the energy it was giving off. And it would be like if you asked me to announce like cricket, which I appreciate, it's a stick and ball sport, but I don't really understand it.
No, I would have no idea, dude. I
was like, this guy's
maybe
forever.
we should do
He's
that.
never going to get out.
Do they? I don't know. Do they have
6
innings?
runs? I understand 6 runs over, 4 runs if it bounces over. They typically only use one ball. They get the ball back usually unless it goes out of the stadium. There's a great highlight. Hey, Paulie, there's a great highlight of a AAA guy going and playing cricket. And he has a round.
It's Mark Reynolds. Was it Mark Reynolds? Or is there? I might be thinking of something else. But so Brian and I, in one of the places that we play tournaments pretty regularly, they have like 6 or 7 cages, and usually if we're there on a Saturday morning, there's 2 cages kind of reserved for people playing cricket, and so it's typically Indian folk, and they're over there and they've got the gear on and they're throwing, and it's kind of like they're doing lessons. They've got their kids over there, and because it's a big sport in India, right? And they're over there practicing.
I think it's a great game. I wonder if it would be interesting because you can get it out at any direction, right? There's no foul or whatever.
I have no idea, dude.
No. I'm saying this is fact. I'll speak to rules I know on this. And so literally you can hit what we would call a foul ball and it goes out of the stadium. That's a home run. You can literally tap one and you can run to your wickets like back and forth, and that's how you get your run. Right? Or you hit one out, you get 6. You bounce one out, you get 4. I don't exactly understand, all the scoring rules. But yeah, it's I don't even know how we went down this rabbit hole. I think it's a great sport that could catch on.
No, but so what I was saying too is so Mark Reynolds, who's with the Diamondbacks and Orioles, I think
was it him?
I'm 99% sure, but they took him and let him play, and they're like, and he was a good first baseman, but he wasn't a Hall of Famer. I think a couple-time All-Star. And he went there, it took him a couple of swings, but once he kind of got the rhythm of because the ball bounces and the spins and stuff, he was just destroying the ball. He and they're like, how would he be as a cricket? Like, oh, he'd be one of the best of all time. And I was like, oh, so I mean, baseball translates certainly. So maybe
in this case, this guy was Jay Collins was the guy who went over there and dominated. I mean, like he played not just took a B. He actually went and played in like a game and like scored, I don't know, something stupid, like 150 runs or what. I mean, it was something insane. But there's some guys that have trained with cricket ball bats as far as how the body works, and it's different, right? You pad up, you got to protect your wickets from getting hit. The pitchers, their arms can't bend, the arms got to stay straight. So there's some different rules. You remember famously they made a movie about the guys who tried to, grew up in India. They tried to get them to the big leagues.
Yeah, they're with the Pirates. Yeah, both.
Yeah, and they didn't never quite make it.
Yeah, one was topping out like 85, and the other was topping out like 90, and I think they're just kind of very average minor league pitchers sort of thing. So was Mark Reynolds? And what I saw, it was on Sports Science. Do you remember the Sports Science piece they used to do on ESPN? Mm-hmm. That's what it was, and they showed him out there. So
was he playing? Was he playing in a game?
No. They had some like guys come in and pitch to him and things like that. So
gotcha. Yeah, mine was in the one that
I was referring to. The
guy was in a game, and like he is going to play cricket for somebody else. Mark Reynolds, he crushed balls. I feel like did you ever play against him?
No, he was much later than me. His rookie year was 2007, but he had a see 28 home runs, 44 in a season, 32,
Yeah,
37.
he had real juice, dude. That's what I
Um,
remember.
Also led the league in strikeouts 4 consecutive years.
Not
So
ideal, but would fit well in today's game.
so here's the thing: he led the league in strikeouts 4 consecutive years, but he's out there crushing the cricket ball. Is it called a cricket ball? I mean,
Yeah, I think so. That's what we'll call it.
yeah. So I mean, you
Yeah,
put
well,
a
I
little
think
better
it's
from him.
again those guys. First of all, it can bounce, right? And
Yeah.
ideally, it does not have to. So that's different. I mean,
There's no seams on the ball, are there?
no, there are seams. There are seams. Some of the
You
balls
know
we've
that, or you're just
seen.
making that up. You're just saying
No,
that.
I'm 100%. I'm 100%. We had when we were over there, Paul. I got to handle a cricket ball, and it definitely has seams on it.
Oh,
I feel
there it
like
is.
you're,
I pulled
you're
up a picture of one. Yeah, it does. You're right. The seams are down the middle, though. It's just like
yes, it's
one.
different. And so sometimes they'll kick from left to right, depending on which side of the seam it hits on.
Maybe instead of throwing a 4-seamer or a 2-seamer, you're throwing a 2-seamer and a 1-seamer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
But I
Maybe
do think, if, back to the original thought, I think if the game was here, I think, I mean,
catch
when I
on.
was just, as we were talking and trying to make sure our facts were right and stuff, dude, there's leagues everywhere now. I mean,
Maybe we could make me and you make a comeback.
my arm sucks. Now, you don't play with a glove. No glove. You catch everything. A lot of times, what's kind of weird though, they still wear like these collared shirts from like the 1920s. Like a lot of the uniforms have a collar on it. You don't. I mean, that don't feel like you're being athletic if you got a collar on your shirt. I watched like the Mumbai Indians. There's a Netflix series, and I watched it several years ago. But I followed like the main tournament deal and followed their practice and their coaches and very much a hockey kind of feel to, hey, the manager is kind of up here, the players are here, different than baseball is very much a, hey, you're an adult, I'm an adult, we'll talk to each other like adults. And it's not that same kind of culture.
Coach, and like, yes, sir, no, sir. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, very much a authoritarian type atmosphere opposed to
weird.
But it was interesting, dude. And those guys can play, dude. A lot of it's again, I'll just say I don't know how we got to this point, but I think if the game would have been here, it would if it gets traction, that would be a fun football game.
I did have a buddy from high school who lived in Sri Lanka for a little bit, and cricket's huge in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And he said he would go to all the matches and just fell in love with it and thought it was great and the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess if you're in that environment, go in and enjoy.
I think if you'd have been born in India, you would be
I'd be a pretty tall Indian. I think there's not many.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be that, but you've been first of all, you've been a player, and who knows? There's not many Indians that are your height. You thinking about pitching straight armed? Can you imagine how often have you ever thrown anything without your elbow bending? Like, could you actually throw with your arm perfectly straight? Like your elbow's not allowed.
Next practice we have, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what I can do.
You probably could. You probably still could create some whip. You could run. You can literally.
Well, they run up on it. Yeah. See this. So this conversation right here is how these two guys were announcing the softball game. Having that one guy, there was one. So here's
I wondered how we got here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The video was super choppy. Like they were streaming it. It wasn't great. But there was one play when there was a line drive hit back to the pitcher, and the one guy shoots home run. Yeah. But I think what he actually meant was there was 2 outs, line drive at the pitcher. She knocks it down, throws the first. But there was a girl on third who crossed the plate during but the run doesn't count because that was the third out.
Well, it's so funny you said home run. The other guy was like, nope. He picks it up and throws the first.
Because I'll add this. So if you want to see this highlight, I record it. So I'll put it on our YouTube. I'll put it on YouTube right now. It'll be on our YouTube.
Third base, he just tripped right in front of it. It's unexpected.
It's unexpected.
Here comes the pitch.
Oh! She dropped it! Home run!
Nope. Unlucky there. She dropped it and throws it to first base, who does get her out.
And you can watch that. It's pretty hilarious. The video is pretty choppy, but the audio is pretty classic. So, well, here's the thing. Like we said, hey, we want some of these rights to these MLB games.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, we do also want you buying rights to podcast merch. A couple links you can find it on our YouTube. You can find it on our Instagram, TikTok. It's everywhere out there. Click on that link, take a look through. We're talking about getting a couple new designs on there. If you've got an idea for a design, hey, let us know. If there's something that we say that you think is funny and would look good on a t-shirt and you wear it around, hey, shoot us an email, wrightstewartpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know. We're happy to do that. So, hey, we appreciate you listening today. And if you're a fan of cricket, we apologize for our lack of knowledge.
Oh, I want somebody who's really a cricket guy to reach out to us, dude, and let's have a conversation. I mean, that's what I want. I want somebody who's like a die-hard cricket fan, really knows the ins and outs of the rules. Like, I feel like somebody could bring you or I on any kind of conversation. We could break down baseball and some of the dumb rules, some of the rules that make sense. And even sometimes when people tell you, hey, you got to learn the rules. I know that's your favorite comment to hear from people, especially umpires. But I would love for a real cricket person to explain some of the scoring and how that works and how some of these games can last forever. And yeah.
Okay, good stuff. All right. Hey, well, Friday, and hey, just like Rebecca Black said, it's Friday. Got to get down on Friday. Enjoy your Friday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Out, go Pack, 3-1.